Hey, it's Nikki Thompson, and I wanted to come on this morning to talk to you all about why we need to deal with our own stories and shame stories and just our negative energy around sex and sexual development and pleasure in order to have these great conversations with our children. So, I have got a new program, Let's Talk, and this program is aimed at parents, and we go through working on some of the shit that we hold on to growing up, the stories that we learnt, the way our parents approach sexual development with us or how they didn't do it, where else we found that information, and all of those kinds of things that may or may not have set us up positively for a great kind of sexual development experience growing up into adulthood. And when we don't go through all of that crap, we then put that onto our own children, right? So then our negative stuff is then put on our children, and we need to work through this in order to have these great conversations with our children. Now, people have asked me, when is too young? When is the right age to start talking about sexual development? And when you think about it, children are developing sexually from the day they're born. But conversations look very different for a 2-year-old to a 15-year-old. And I go through a lot of that in my program about what kind of conversations we need to have at different stages of life, different stages of development for our children. So in the early stages, we want to be setting them up with confidence around their bodies, and also knowing that they're the boss of their body. So that they, who is allowed to touch them where, and are they allowed to say yes or no? So one of the biggest things I've taught my children is that they don't have to hug or kiss anybody that they don't want to. That includes me if they're not feeling it. That includes their grandparents, aunties, uncles. Everyone gets a choice of who's hugging or touching them, and it starts from a very young age. But I grew up in a generation where you had to hug and kiss your grandparents, right? They turn up, you have to do it. You have to kiss and hug your aunts and uncles. Otherwise you're a rude, naughty child. All right, what is that setting us up for? That's setting us up for a feeling that we don't have a say in who is touching our body. And that's from a very young age. And then if we didn't, it's I'll give you a lolly if you do, or I'll give you this if you do, or I'll give you that if you do it. Right? And that's setting them up for some negative shit, right? So these are the types of things that we can start to do and start to incorporate in our life, regardless of how old your child is. If you have been kind of, second guessing some of the ways that you've spoken to your child, or some of the boundaries that you've encouraged them to set, you can always re-educate, and it's never too late to start. You'd rather start today than just leave it and then let it go, right? So that's a big one. Another one we will talk about in the program is about masturbation and just touching themselves. So I have 3 children, boys and girls, and for me, it's a lot of setting boundaries and what's appropriate and where. So, of course, they're allowed to touch their own body. They're allowed to touch their own body however they like. But do we do it at the dining table? No. Do we do it at the restaurant? No. Can you do it in your own bedroom? Yes. Can you do it in the bathroom? Yes. So these are the types of things that I encourage my children to do. And these are the kind of boundaries that we need to set, because it's not stop touching yourself, it's going to fall off, or there's so many different kind of things that I've heard said over the years, that it's dirty, that you should close your legs, all of these types of things is setting a shame story around their body and touching themselves. And we don't want that either. So these are some of the conversations that we can have and boundaries that we can set and encourage and continue to set. Because just because you said it once doesn't mean they're necessarily going to listen to you, right? So that's kind of as they get a little bit older again. And boys and girls are different. So we need to kind of look at what conversations we need to have at different stages, different genders, different personalities, all sorts of things. And then we get into teenage years. And how do we have these really awkward conversations with children when, for me, I'm not awkward at all. I talk about this all the time, about development, puberty, all sorts of stuff. But my child is definitely awkward, and so I'm trying to, I find ways that makes it less awkward. And so I talk about that in the program of how to have these conversations, resources that you can give them. How do you approach this in a positive way that's going to set them up for a positive sexual development experience? Because that's what we want for our children. We don't want them growing up thinking that there's something wrong with them, thinking that they should be ashamed to touch themselves, thinking that they should be ashamed for thinking different sexual thoughts, which they are going to think about. Now, I wanted to blast off one big myth before I finish up this video. So the biggest myth is that if we give our children too much information, they're going to start having sex early. And that is absolutely a myth. If we do not give them information, if we don't give it to them, they're looking elsewhere for it, okay? Doesn't mean if we don't give them information, they're not going to do anything at all. That's not true. What's going to happen is they're going to talk to their friends. They're going to be looking on the internet because they have such easy access to the internet now, which I didn't have when I was that age. So these are some of the things that will happen is they will look elsewhere. And when they look elsewhere, that information is highly likely to be incorrect. It's going to also form and mold their sexual development, and you have no control over it when they're going elsewhere for that information. So we want to establish that communication channel with them so they can ask any questions. And even if they ask questions that you don't want to be answering, depending on their age, if they're asking those questions, they've heard it from somewhere, and you need to work out how you can craft an age-appropriate response for that. And so these things are really, really important. So by not giving them any information is not going to slow down their sexual development. They're just going to go somewhere else. And I would absolutely encourage you to find ways that you can answer their questions when they're asked, to give them the information that they need when they need it, so that you can really help them and open up that communication channel so that they will come to you as opposed to going to the internet or their mates. So I hope this has really helped. I would love for you to come and join Let's Talk. This is my new program. We're doing the very first round starting this Sunday, the 28th of February. And this is a live round. So you can come and join the, ask your questions, all of that kind of thing. We are going to, I'm also offering the Vibe program, which is a program to help women overcome and start to dive into some of those stories that are playing in our head on repeat. And I think that's a really important foundational element. So you get that for free just with this first round. We also have it at an amazing price just for this first round. So I would love for you to come and join in. I will put the link below the video. If you're watching on Instagram or other places, it will actually be in my bio, or head to my website, nikkithompson.com, and you'll be able to find it there and get all the information. Otherwise, send me a message if you have any questions. This is really powerful work. This is what our children need from us in this day and age, is to be very aware of, this whole side of them. Sexual development is just as important as reading, writing, and all of those things. It's just one of those things that has always been pushed down, tucked away, and behind closed doors. And we can't keep doing that in this day and age with ease of access to pornography and so many other things that are molding our children's sexual development, but we need to have more ability to input and have an influence on that. So I hope you are able to join us. I would love to see you in there. And if you have any questions, you know how to reach me. I'll see you later. Bye.